Hi Pisces, welcome to your November 2020 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So November's news, I would say the biggest news is that we have two personal planets stationing direct. Mercury on the 3rd at 25 degrees of Libra. I'll get to the specifics of that in a minute, but I just wanted to mention that Mercury goes direct on the 3rd and Mars on the 13th, so 10 days later, in Aries. So the Sun is in a friendly angle, a trine to you, being in Scorpio. And for you, because this is a sign, the water sign right before yours, we're talking about the 9th house. So it's almost like having the Sun in Sagittarius and feeling like maybe a Sagittarius, which is very optimistic and expansive. And there might be issues in your life that you're dealing with that involve the higher mind, which can involve the intellectual part of you, although it's like abstract knowledge of the 9th house in the form of university level teaching or learning, or both, I guess, academia. And there's also the long distance travel aspect. Sometimes when you have planets in the 9th house, you may be more traveling mentally, so doing a lot of reading about faraway places and lofty topics to stimulate your intellect and things like that. Or this is also the God house and the house of philosophy. So this idea of like, why am I here? What is my purpose? You know, what are other people's purposes? So that kind of philosophical bent to you. So when Mercury turns direct on the 3rd at 25 degrees of Libra, this is going to be for Pisces, the 8th house. So even though it isn't, Libra isn't an air sign, in your particular chart, and of course this is a generalized version of this, it might be different for each of you, but let's just say for some of you, this is going to be in the 8th house. And this is a water house. This is Scorpio's house in the universal chart. And so Mercury retrograde in this house, I mean, on the more mundane level, Mercury retrograding and turning, I guess you could say, like turning direct in that 8th house can mean coming to some kind of understanding or agreement. And this is the house of shared resources. So it can always be something like a will, an inheritance. Mercury can be documents that may have been somehow misinterpreted, misunderstood. Maybe in some cases there was even deception involved, and that had to be sorted out. It began in the 9th house, which can be legal. It can be a house of the law, but it gets resolved. And it's also the house of death and metaphysics, including, the what we call the occult, which I don't really like that word too much because it has a negative connotation for some people. But the word occult means hidden, so it's kind of like, I don't know why astrology and the tarot are kind of put in that category, because they are far from hidden. But maybe back when we didn't have, well, even before the internet, they were well known. But long ago, there were certain beliefs that were kept just for certain people. And basically, it's to have control over the masses. So, but it became something scary and spooky, and actually, the 8th house is like kind of things that go bump in the night, paranormal things. And isn't that perfect for November, coming off of that full moon in Taurus on Halloween? So more of the same as you get into the month of, when you're still in Scorpio season. So then on the 10th, which is exactly a week later, Mercury goes back into Scorpio. So it goes back into that ninth house. So now you have the Sun and Mercury in the ninth. There could be something related to travel plans, maybe, that were canceled or postponed. Back on, maybe getting your passport, something with documents that are related to long distance travel, talking to universities, trying to enroll, trying to apply for teaching positions, who knows, things like that. You could be talking to people from another culture, perhaps learning a new language. On the 13th, Mars stations direct at 15 degrees of Aries, and Aries for you is the money house, cha-ching. The eighth house that you've had the Sun and Mercury going through, that's a money house too, but it's shared resources. This is the money that you earn, although I would say just in general, it's a money house for all of your money matters and possessions. And Mars has been retrograding in this house. You may have felt like chomping at the bit to kind of make some money, and you were kind of stymied from that in recent months. And now it's full steam ahead. And you may be, who knows, with Mars direct in that house, perhaps you're working your butt off, and working overtime to make up for lost time. On the 15th, you certainly will have physical energy to do this. On the 15th, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio in that ninth house. So new beginnings, maybe some taking a language course, perhaps, going to embark on a journey, a long distance journey to a place you've never been before. On the 21st, or going back to college. On the 21st, or going into college for the first time. Sorry, I keep coming up with these different scenarios. On the 21st, Venus goes into Scorpio. So now Venus is in this house. This is a loaded house, and Venus can bring moolah. So earning money through a university, through publishing is ninth house. Maybe you are taking a working vacation and you're going to be making money through that, or at least you somehow attract money to be able to do this. This could be falling in love with somebody from a different nationality, culture, what have you. On the very same day, the 21st, the Sun goes into Sag. And Sag is your 10th house of career, Pisces. Angular house, baby. So very important, and in Sag season, maybe this is when you see your career matters take center stage, and really you're focused on career goals at this time. And certainly with Mars in the second house, after it's been retrograde, maybe it's like, okay, now I can finally make more money. I've been kind of held back, because when Mars was direct in that house, in the second house, you may have already kind of kickstarted it, and then it ground to a halt. On the 28th, your ruler, Neptune, goes direct. So that should be good for Pisces, because it's also transiting your sign. So this, to say your ruler in your sign, does that impact you, Pisces? Yeah. So I believe that Neptune went retrograde in June. Have you been feeling rather disillusioned since June about life in general? And it might have been, a specific thing that you were pinning your hopes on that didn't turn out quite how you wanted it. And so now you're questioning everything. I think the fact that Neptune is going direct just a week after the Sun goes into the 10th house is not a coincidence. I think that you're ready to dream big again. Perhaps you've had a wake-up call about something, some kind of like a reality check, as it relates to your life. And yet you have not given up hope that you can achieve certain things. You really do believe that because, there's a definite idealism when it comes to Neptune. Sometimes the astrological information is not very positive when it comes to Neptune. And I like to, stress the good things because I often wonder why there are certain astrologers who seem to look at some of these planets in such a negative way instead of seeing that, yes, of course, there are challenges. Even with the more what we would call benign influences of Venus and Jupiter, although they can be like Santa Claus and giving us things, they can also create a false sense of everything is just going to always just be like this and grandiose notions as a result, although Neptune can certainly do that as well. But, inflated sense of optimism sometimes can come back to bite people in the butt. So there's no such thing as a bad transit unless you look at life in a very limited way. And I choose not to. And I think that Neptune has a lot of great qualities. But the world, is going to value things of the world. And Neptune is not of the world. So anyway, so that's happening on the 28th. And then on the 30th, Gemini, there's a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini. So here's another mutable sign transit. And the last three that I mentioned are all mutable signs. So, and you are too, obviously, Pisces. So it is impacting you specifically. So the lunar eclipse is at 8 degrees of Gemini on the 30th of November. And this is falling in your fourth house of home and family. And this can be very emotional. It could be like, when I say emotional, very sentimental. For some people, it might be like a sense of relief and release because it can help you to let go of childhood wounds. You may have been dealing with something for a long time that has held you back that has to do with your childhood. And this is another water house. This is Cancer's house. So anything that keeps you stuck, the lunar eclipse, you could look at it as grace, where there might be some event that happens that allows you to free yourself from the past. Also, this can be a situation where you have some kind of aha moment about maybe something right now that you do that works against you that actually is the product of childhood, is that's where the source of it is. And once you can see that, you no longer feel that need to do it because you realize that you're just kind of repeating patterns from childhood and reacting in certain ways. And you can finally put it to rest. So, very interesting month, I'm not surprised that there's some emotional stuff because November for me always feels like the sense of, deep diving and a lot of introspection. Okay, that's what I have for you, Pisces. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, I have different types. You can find out more information through the link below. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.